colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very great pleasure to welcome you all to an exciting announcement regarding the role of the University of Western Ontario in our most recent United Way campaign. This announcement has become a tradition at Western. It is very often a very, very good news story, and we're looking forward to hearing the story today. I should say another tradition is we've held it in this lovely atrium of the Labatt Health Sciences building since the building was opened a couple of years ago, and it's great to have you all back in this very fine setting. I want to welcome warmly our friends from the United Way. I see Brian Lessard, the chair of the Board of Directors of the United Way. Welcome, Brian. Of course, we have the United Way's leader and our Western leader, Helen Connell, the Executive Director of the United Way and the Chair of our Board of Governors. So welcome, Helen. Also from the United Way are a number of their outstanding leaders, people who have worked throughout the community, and also in particular with Western over so many years. Ruth Young, welcome to Ruth. Jo Deslip, who's here. I was just talking with Jo, there she is. Jo Deslip, also jazz singer. I mean, she doesn't get any better than that. Janet Burton and Abby Scully. I was just talking with Abby, and of course Abby has always worked very closely with Western. So a warm welcome to all those from the United Way. Such a great job. We at Western owe a debt to all those people for what they do for the community of London, and of course they're people throughout our city who benefit very, very directly from the hard work of the United Way leadership. So a warm welcome to all of them. And in a moment I'm going to introduce our superstars, Jim Weese and Rosemary Lawrence-Pitt, who've been leading up our campaign. Let me say, though, just before I do that, how important the United Way is to Western and to London. Part of what we aspire to is to be an outstanding university in a welcoming community, a community that welcomes our faculty, staff, and students from around the world. It is a place that we can all enjoy. It's really important for universities like ours to have an enjoyable, culturally advanced, and supportive city around us. And part of that supportive city is the way we help those most in need. 2 years ago I was chair of the United Way campaign, and I got to see firsthand the outstanding work that is done in the various agencies around the city, the agencies that are funded by the United Way. Often in those agencies there'll be dozens and dozens of volunteers who do most of the work. And all the agency really needs is just a little bit of annual funding to fund a permanent staff member or two, look after the heating of the building and that sort of thing. So the United Way, every dollar that anyone gives to the United Way is multiplied again and again and again by the efficient way those agencies are run and by the dedicated services of all the volunteers that are supported. I also got to meet, though, the clients of the agencies. The people in need, people with medical problems, people reaching the end of their lives, people with children with learning difficulties or other difficulties, and the hundreds and hundreds of people who have their lives changed by the United Way. It was certainly a lesson to me, and I'm sure a lesson to everyone who gets involved in this great campaign. So we're here to celebrate Western support for something that reaches out to our friends and neighbors across the city. We've got some other leaders from Western who've been involved in the United Way. Our Vice President External, Ted Gerard, is a former chair of the United Way board here in London, but before he came to Western, he was the chief fundraiser for the United Way of Toronto, and he is in demand throughout our country to advise United Way campaigns, advise United Way boards on their policies. So Ted has devoted a large part of, first of his working life and now of his volunteer life to the United Way. Gary Blazik, our Director of Alumni Relations, is here today. He's a member of the United Way Campaign Cabinet. Just looking for eye contact. There he is. Okay. Right behind JW. There we go. Thank you, JW. Perhaps the most important person here today is Canada's finest mascot, JW. Great to have you here. And I should say that both Ted and Gary are outstanding volunteers in other settings in our community, so that they can stand here with pride. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the co-chairs of this year's United Way campaign, Jim Weese and Rosemary Lawrence-Pitt. And I wonder if they could come up here and I'll just say a few words about what they've done. You all know Jim is the Dean of Health Sciences, the faculty that occupies this wonderful building, and Rosemary as the Director of Advancement Services, working with Ted Gerard. And we've had good campaigns in recent years, in part because we've had tremendous co-chairs, people who've gone out and inspired others to get involved as volunteers, to organize the many events we have on campus to celebrate the United Way and get people involved, who've convinced individuals to dig just a little bit deeper every year. We've done very, very well, as you know, in the Leaders of the Way at Western. We're leading the city in that regard, and I think it's in no small part due to the great co-chairs that we have. So I'm going to turn the podium over to Jim and Rosemary, and why don't you join me in thanking them once again for the great work they've done this year.